Welcome back, you guys. So I'm going to look at part 2 of literal equations, and we're actually going to now look at the problems here, sample problems here on Delta Math. Okay. All right. So it says solve the following equation for a capital A. Be sure to take into account whether a letter is capitalized or not. Basically, that's also telling us too when we type it in, we need to make sure we capitalize and lowercase our letters. All right. So if I write down my example. So I have a lowercase j equals capital A divided by F. Okay, and I want to get A by itself. Okay, so this is A divided by, say, F equals 5. So A divided by 5. How would I get A by itself? Well, I would multiply both sides of the equation by the denominator. So if I have my wall, I would multiply both sides by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by F, and I'm going to multiply by F. So that means the numerator and the denominator of F eliminate. So capital A equals, well, this is just F times J. And we don't know what that equals, so we write F times J. Okay, so I've solved for A. Okay, and now you go in here into Delta Math and type it in. Okay, now just so you can see that you can flip it if you had written lowercase j then F. So, okay. I didn't have to put a multiplication symbol in between that because remember when two letters are next to each other, it's implied that it's multiplication. Submit my answer. And there you go. Okay. All right. So let's do a new problem. So example, G equals negative B plus A. And it says solve the following equation for A. So I'm solving for this lowercase a. So that means I need to do something with B. Okay, so since this clearly says minus B, then the opposite of subtraction will be to add B to both sides. Okay, all right, so the negative B plus B, that eliminates, that'll equal 0. Bring down my A. All right, and then I'm just going to write it. Now, I generally write what I've written down on top on the left. So G plus B. Okay. But as long as you keep the signs in front of the letters consistent, okay, you could write it as B first, but I generally take whatever I've written first, it becomes the left here. So when I go to Delta Math, this is where I want to make sure I capitalize it, okay, because let's lowercase it and see what happens. So G plus B. Submit my answer. Okay, it did accept it, but okay, I can't guarantee that it'll accept the answer every time, especially if you have a capital letter of G and a lowercase letter of G in the same problem. So just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So let's go here and look at level 2. So notice it gets just a little bit more complex. Okay. So 3GA equals capital B to the third minus F. All right, so solve the following equation for lowercase a. Be sure to take into account whether a letter is capitalized or not. Okay. All right, so I need to get this a by itself. So this a right here. Okay, so that is 3 times g times a. So I've said multiplication. So I said times and times. So the opposite of multiplication is division. I'm going to do it all in one step. So I'm going to divide by 3g. I'm going to divide the whole right-hand side by 3g. So 3 cancels, g cancels. That eliminates. It equals 1. So a equals, and I'm just going to keep this as all one large fraction, b to the third minus f divided by 3g. Okay, so now when I type that in, I'll type in a equals. All right, we put the divide sign first, so I get my fraction. So capital B to the third, and then I have to press my arrow key to get it out of the exponent, minus f And then in the denominator, 3g. Oh, my 3 didn't type. Oops. 3g. There we go. Okay. All right, now let's move on down here to formula so we can keep this video pretty short and sweet. Okay, now I can't go through every single type of problem that you're going to get on Delta Math, okay? And they're going to present you with lots of different random formulas. So again, if you need help on a particular one, take a picture and send it to me. All right, it says the formula to calculate the gravitational force between two objects is F sub g, that's what that means, equals gm sub 1 times m sub 2 divided by r squared, where m sub 1 and m sub 2 are the masses of the objects, g is the gravitational constant force, g is the gravitational constant, and r is the distance between the objects. Solve for the positive value of r in terms of f sub g, capital G, m sub 1, and m sub 2. Okay, all right, so let's go after this. Capital F sub g equals g m sub 1, m sub 2, all over r squared. Okay. All right. So, wonderful thing here. Delta Math has given us some buttons to help us out with typing. That'll make life go a little bit faster. Okay. All right. And we are trying to solve for the positive value of r. So, that means right now I need to solve for r squared. R squared is in the denominator. That's a horrible place to be. Okay. Because I can't add or subtract anything because it's trapped in that denominator. So I need to get it out of the denominator. You can do this two ways, okay? You can cross multiply, and if you know what that means, great, go ahead and do it, okay? I will address cross multiplication at a different time, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by my denominator, and it's essentially the same thing, okay? So I'm going to multiply by r squared. Notice I left it as r squared. Okay, so r squared times f sub g, well, that's just r squared f sub g, equals, well, now this cancels, g m sub 1 m sub 2. Okay, all right. So now I've got r squared times f sub g. So now I'm in a good position to get r by itself because I can divide both sides by f sub g. Okay, so I'm going to divide by f sub g. Okay, so that cancels. I'm left with r squared equals capital G m sub 1 m sub 2 divided by s sub g. Okay, all right. So if you got here, you're in great shape. Okay, you've understood what I've done. You followed it. Okay, all we did was multiply both sides by something. We've divided by both sides on something. Okay, all right. Here's your last inverse operation or your opposite operation that you may or may not remember from middle school. Okay, I have this r squared. Okay, well, I can't have r squared because I'm trying to get r by itself. Okay, so I need to take the square root of both sides. If you're looking at Delta Math, that square root symbol was a big hint. Okay, they provided you with that square root symbol. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, when you take the square root of r squared, that leaves you with r because the square root symbol and the exponent of 2 cancel out. Okay, all right, and then the right hand side, we're done. Just recopy it. There's nothing we can do here. So G, M1, M2, it really should be sub, but I'm typing fast or writing fast. F sub G. Okay. All right, so how do I type this in? Square root first, and then divide. Because now the fraction is trapped underneath the square root symbol like it is on my piece of paper. So capital G, M1, M2, and on the bottom, F sub G. That was really easy to type in because Delta Math gave me all my buttons. Okay? All right, let's hit submit. Yes. Okay? And he pretty much did it the same way that I did. Okay? Showed a little bit more work. Now, what I've done in this assignment, and I know that this may frustrate you, um, and I'm hoping that it doesn't, but this is what I do like about Delta Math, okay? If you notice here, it says there's no penalty for being wrong, okay? But what I'm also looking for is that you do 5 problems here, you get all 5 of them right. 5 problems here, you get all 5 of them right, okay? And then here, transform, you get 5 problems, you do all 5 of them right. But some of you, you may need more than 5 problems to get 5 problems correct, okay? So you don't lose any penalty on your score, okay, if it takes you 6, 7, or 8, 9, 10 problems to get this correct, okay? This is probably the hardest topic, okay, that you've been presented with so far, okay? But you know how to reach me. If you need help, I'm happy to help. This can be confusing for students, but if not, good luck, okay? And happy Monday.